Hello, it's Jim Hutchens for the Jerusalem Connection Spot Report for this week. Currently, as we speak, as a matter of fact, there's a war going on in Egypt. Some say it's a civil war. Some say it's an uncivil war. It is a contest, however, between the Egyptian military and the Muslim Brotherhood. We've yet to see how this will turn out. But I think as we look at this, we can see what Isaiah, the prophet Isaiah, saw, or foresaw in this case, with regard to Egypt. And he gives a prophecy of the end times with regard to them. For example, he says, chapter 19, verse 22, it says, "In that day there will be a highway from Egypt to Assyria. The Assyrians will go to Egypt, the Egyptians to Assyria. The Egyptians and the Assyrians will worship together. In that day, Israel will be a third along with Egypt and Assyria, a blessing on the earth. Yahweh Almighty will bless them, saying, 'Blessed be Egypt, my people, Assyria, my handiwork, and Israel, my inheritance.'" So I think we are seeing a prelude to that, the necessary preliminaries, if you will, to what he speaks of in Isaiah 19. Matter of fact, he says this is a prophecy against Egypt. "See, Yahweh rides on a swift cloud and is coming to Egypt. The idols of Egypt tremble before him, and the hearts of the Egyptians melt with fear. I will stir up an Egyptian against Egyptian. Brother will fight against brother, neighbor against neighbor, city against city, kingdom against kingdom. I will hand the Egyptians over to the power of a cruel master, and a fierce king will rule over them, declares Yahweh the Lord Almighty. In that day, Egyptians will become weaklings. They will shudder with fear at the uplifted hand that Yahweh Almighty raises against them. And the land of Judah will bring terror to the Egyptians, and everyone to whom Judah is mentioned will be terrified because of what Yahweh Almighty is planning against them. In that day, 5 cities in Egypt will speak the language of Canaan. I assume that to be Hebrew. And they will swear alliance to Yahweh Almighty. That's the God of the Hebrews. In that day there will be an altar to the Lord, to Yahweh in the heart of Egypt, and a monument to Yahweh at its borders. It will be a sign and a witness to Yahweh Almighty in the land of Egypt. When they cry out to Yahweh because of their oppressors, he will send them a savior and a defender, and will rescue them. A savior and a defender. And so Yahweh will make himself known to the Egyptians. In that day they will acknowledge Yahweh. They will worship with sacrifices and grain offerings. They'll make vows to Yahweh, and they'll keep them. And Yahweh will strike Egypt with a plague. He will strike them and heal them. They will turn to Yahweh, and he will respond to their pleas, and he will heal them. And then this prophetic end times end of this. In that day there will be a highway from Egypt to Assyria. The Assyrians will go to Egypt, and the Egyptians to Assyria. The Egyptians and the Assyrians will worship together. In that day Israel will be a third along with Egypt and Assyria, a blessing on the earth. Yahweh Almighty will bless them, saying, 'Blessed be Egypt, my people, Assyria, my handiwork, and Israel, my inheritance.'" And I believe that what we're seeing now in Egypt is a prelude to the fulfillment of this end-time prophecy. It's moving fast, folks, so fasten your seatbelts. Till next week, Od Ki Yavo Shiloh, or until Messiah comes, Yivareka Yahweh. God bless.